Hi, my name is Guy Lawrence and thanks for tuning into my podcast today. If you're enjoying these conversations and you want to check out more of this transformational work, be sure to come back to guylawrence.com.au and join me as we go further down the rabbit hole. Enjoy the show. Sue, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Guy. It's wonderful to be here, and I look forward to seeing where we get to go with our conversation today.
Yeah, so do I. And I know we were saying off air, but when people keep posting me things, you know, and you start seeing it from different angles, there's certainly something you need to start to investigate. And that's what happened once you released your book. There was quite several people saying, Guy, check out this book, it's fantastic. And the moment I listened to it, I was blown away, Sue, and the work that you put into it. And I even checked out the videos and the support and everything that you did with that book. And being somebody who has a business myself can appreciate how much love and effort went into that. So, yeah,
Yes, definitely a labor of love, and my life. You know, it's I had a life-changing experience 20 years ago, and I turned my life into a living laboratory so that I could reproduce that experience. And so I ended up codifying what it took to do that. I shared it with my patients. They started getting better faster and staying better longer. And so I knew I was onto something that needed to be shared. So it's been a great joy.
It has been amazing. And look, just to clarify as well, if you were on an aeroplane and you sat next to a complete stranger and they asked you what you did for a living, what would your response be these days?
Well, I share with people how to identify with a different reality than the one they were living in that's creating so much pain in their lives. And so I turn people on to a higher picture version of themselves and teach them how to integrate that into this life, into this world. I've said a variety of answers to that question over the years by means of I first was a doctor in a clinic treating patients, and then my focus became I'm a teacher and a doctor, I don't know, both, and everywhere from quantum science to a spiritual teacher, and everything in between, because really it's about everything, you know, it's all related. And personal development and self-healing techniques, I share that a lot on an airplane. I'm on an airplane multiple times every week, so I have many opportunities for this conversation.
Dial it in for sure. How do you find people respond to you these days about it?
You know, it's a whole lot different than it was 20 years ago. I never talked about it, you know, initially because I wasn't comfortable. And as I began to integrate more and more, I realized that people don't have any idea what's going on in this life, and that's why we struggle so much. And so the more I shared, the more people started asking, and that's what really the impetus for writing a book. People asked me to write a book for a decade before I ever sat down to really do it, you know, about 7 years into that. So now people respond wonderfully. People are hungry for information. They know something more is available, and they can almost taste it. They can almost touch it and feel it and see it. They feel like they're just about to step through a threshold. And it's really just, it's about a little bit more information, but a whole lot more embodiment and integration of that information that is needed in our entire culture is going to just pop open. It's a very exciting time to be alive, to be here. Because there's transformation is in the air for sure.
Oh, totally. Well, that's what happened to me, and it was really fascinating because, you know, with hindsight now, being able to look back, I can look at the decisions and the things I was doing and getting myself into all sorts of a mess in life, which I still do to a degree. I'm not, you know, but that embodiment, that once you have that experience or these experiences, for me, that's my greatest teacher by far, and it's finding the balance to lean into it before you have an embodied experience is the key, I think. And you do that so well with your information that you get across.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. You know, it's interesting because I was using the word embodiment before anybody was talking about such things. People were still focused on enlightenment. You know, how do I have these out of body experiences? Or we read about these near-death experiences and these fantastical multi-dimensional things that people experience, and everybody wants that. They want that. And I had that without a stroke or without nearly dying or without an out-of-body experience in that way. I had it through meditation, and I was, just illuminated. And I was me, but I wasn't in a body. I could see 360 degrees around me in a light so brilliantly bright. It was 10
Wow.
times brighter than the brightest day in the desert that I had ever seen. And then this beautiful iridescent horizon would rise and fall each time I took a breath. And I could see the earth beneath me about the size of a marble. And I was embedded into it up to what would have been my knees, but I wasn't in a body, so I didn't have knees, but I was this ray of light, just this ray of light. It was crazy. And I was a scientist and a doctor and, living in a totally different world at that time. And I was like, I didn't even talk about it to very many people for several years. Just the people who were in the room with me when it happened. And then I started I wanted to return to that state, because the most important thing about the whole experience was I was completely fulfilled, completely satiated. There was nothing to accomplish. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing to become. I was whole, complete. And I knew that this was the truth about all of us, but we're living in some lower dimensional version of that, and we don't have access to this. And so because of that, the mind starts filling in all the blanks with all these stories about who we are and about what life is and what the limitations are about it all. And it compresses us into a box that we don't belong in. So I turned my life into this living laboratory, as I mentioned earlier, to try to figure out how to recreate that, how to get there again. And I figured it out. And as I did, I shared it with other people. And it's just been a phenomenal, amazing, amazing life transformation. So the key was not about the enlightenment experience. The key was, can I get in my body as that one, as the one that was illuminated, and live and see through these eyes from that being, from that state of being, so that I see that the issues at hand aren't really issues. They're just here to help refine me and to nudge me toward this true awareness. And once we get that as a concept, once we get that down, the key is embodiment. The key is building the circuitry to be able to perceive the true self instead of this false protective personality that we developed along the way.
Yeah,
So.
Incredible. And two questions popped in there. Was one, when that experience happened to you, and I'm assuming that's what happened when you mentioned 20 years ago, that turning point,
yes.
were you actively sort of seeking that, or was it coming from a place of pain? And the other question would be then, how the hell did you respond once you have something like that, the first few days later and you go home or whatever it happens?
I was blown out. Okay, so I wasn't seeking it because I didn't know it was there to be sought. I wasn't aware of, I was seeking meditation as a stress relief. I just was trying to learn how to calm down my mind because I'd become perfectionistic. I was horribly shy. I overcame it by being, really good at doing all the tasks at hand. I became perfectionistic. And that, of course, leads to stress because it's not authentic. It's not real. And so to seek relief from my perfectionism, I sought out meditation. But I didn't know about it from this standpoint of illumination, enlightenment, the Eastern principles. I didn't know any of that. I was just like, how do I learn how to breathe, to calm myself down? Because I was starting to get migraine headaches. And so I sat down in meditation, and within the first 2 or 3 meditations, the very first time I sat down in meditation, I had an experience. And about the third one, I had this huge transcendental experience, multidimensional. And that was what I was describing to you. So it was pain that drove me to learn meditation. And then it was within meditation that this opening occurred. But I didn't know about this idea that you could enlighten. It wasn't about that. I thought I was just, it was stress relief. So it was double the benefit because my headaches went away. It changed my life. I was no longer a perfectionistic. My circuits were blown. And enlightenment occurred, just coincident. There are no coincidences, but it was as if it was just, an accident that I stumbled upon this reality. I have this image. Let me see if I can find it. I was just teaching a class, and I use this in one of my classes. So I'll see if I can hold it up here and see if this works. Now this is kind of like, wow, big old spiritual type of image, but just take a look here. This is who we think we are. And this is what happened. I lit up here. I could see down, and this was, quite a distance, quite further than this image will show. But what I really would show people is this energy field that exists down here in the human system. It's energy drops down through our body, hits the earth, and rises back up, and cycles around and around and around. And if it rises up through enough accurate circuits, it rises up and creates a perfect field. If it rises up on limited circuitry, it creates a distortion in the energy field, and that distortion is what creates our stress. We look out through that field and we see a distorted reality. So most of humanity is walking around inside of a distorted movie that they think is filled with stress, and think that it's filled with things that are suppressing them and causing them hardship. But it's actually a reflection to us about what's not going on internally, what is or what is not going on internally. And so it's really just feedback. So if we take it personally, we never get to the fact that it's really just feedback trying to show us how to, focus up the lens a little bit more accurately.
Yeah, it's incredible. And looking at those charts then with the distorted chart of the energy and how the Torah should be running naturally, from all your experience and what you've seen, then should we be really thinking about changing our energy to change our circumstances, as opposed to just constantly trying to change the physical all the time?
Right. We try to change our circumstances so that it will change our energy. But our circumstances, quantum science is showing us, our circumstances, our life is a reflection of our own consciousness. And if our consciousness isn't running accurately, then the energy doesn't run accurately through our bodies. So the toric field gets a distortion. So it's all in response to how what we're holding as true. If we're holding an illusion as true, meaning I'm not enough, or it's never going to work for me, or fate would have it that I'm never going to have what I want, or it's impossible, I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I don't have enough money, all that kind of, those limiting beliefs, they play a role. But I work with people beyond the idea of just changing your beliefs. I work with people to realize you actually are made of the energy that you're trying to learn how to manage. You're made of it. It's you. It's not something separate from you. And when we get that identity honed together, then we have the power to really transform our life experience from this masterful place, rather than just thinking that we're caged in by our mind and we have to change our mind to change our reality. There are additional ways that we can work with that make the whole thing easier.
Totally. So what happened to you? So that would have changed your reality after an experience like that.
My reality. You bet it did.
Yeah. So how did you find integrating back in, after that experience? And like you said, you didn't speak about it for a while. Like, what happened?
Yeah. So it blew my circuits, Guy. It was like I was in bed for days. There were people, the teacher that I was working with instructed people to go to my house and take me home, go to my house. I had to fly across the country to get home. My circuits were completely blown. And there were people taking care of me. They would wake me up to try to feed me after a couple of days. And I was just in such a blissful state. I didn't care if I ever came back. It was like, whatever, I don't know what you people are doing, but I'm going back into the bliss. And then it finally started grounding enough that I could get up, get functional, go back to work for, part days. And then it started to integrate even more. And I couldn't listen to the television. The radio, it was too much, the vibrational frequencies. The only thing I could stand to tolerate were the sounds of these sacred chants from the East. Somebody started playing them and I was like, oh my God, thank God. And as it turns out, those chants were sounds of really higher frequency realms. And that's what the chanting was for in the East. That's what they were doing with their mantras and their repeated, chanting and what we would call song was for a different purpose for them. But it allowed me to feel soothed enough that I could start to climb into my body with this experience. So I was quite blissed out. Then it was hard to be here. And then as I learned to come into my body with it, I recognized that the body was a buffer and a filtering system to allow what I now know are billions of bits of information that are bombarding this energy field, this system that we are every millisecond. And if we're in the body acts as a filtering system that starts to step that information down. It doesn't arrive to our head. It arrives, these billions of bits of information, they arrive at our gut level. And then they're carried up by the vagus nerve, and they're carried up through chemical impulses, et cetera, through the endocrine system and all kinds of things. They're filtered through the heart, and then has another brain. So the brain in the gut translates information to the brain in the heart, which translates the information up here to our conscious brain in our head that we're used to dissecting and studying, and we're fascinated with the functions of the brain. But it's a processing plant that is the third step in us integrating this universal intelligence that we have access to and that we're made of. And so as I began to figure this out, I was able to drop in the body, use the body for the filtering system, the buffer that it's built to be. And all of a sudden I had access to this universal intelligence, this cosmic, translation was happening through me, which I know a lot of people have access to. We call them channelers, or we call them, mediums that have access across these veils, etc. And there's actually some very real research that is showing us that not only is this possible, and not only do I know that it's possible from my personal experience, but science is starting to get on board with validating this, which allows other people to accept it as a possibility, and because they like the proof, and so it's just a beautiful time to be alive, where science and spirituality and these types of experiences are merging. They're coming together in an evidential kind of way, which allows more and more people to accept it as a possibility. And so we get this mass consciousness going, and we're helping each other wake up because of just the energetic that we're allowing to be valid and true.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's once you have that experience, and it's like, the way I look at it, it's almost like an adaptation that starts occurring. And the more you lean into the adaptation that's going on within the body, the more you kind of have a communication with this very energy, and your transmission gets better and better over time, and it keeps unfolding.
Exactly. This is what I'm trying to steward humanity into, to recognizing this, to learning how to work with it, so that this translation can happen accurately. Because if there's accuracy, we can start to trust it faster. Like, people are translating all the time, but if they don't have enough circuitry in place, the translations are sketchy. And so they kind of get the impression that they should go and do this thing, or that they should say this, or that it's safe to work on that, or to open to something. But because they have limited circuitry, because it's new, they kind of halfway translate the information accurately, and oftentimes they miss. So then it's hard for them to build confidence that this is trustworthy, and that I can live my life by my gut feelings and my intuitions, because sometimes it's on and sometimes it's so off. So I'm teaching people how to build greater sensory circuitry so that they can translate and adapt, as you say, faster, more efficiently, more effectively, so that adaptation allows for accurate translation of information that is here for everyone. And it's not our educated mind type of information. It's this intuition, this hunch, this inner knowing, this guttural wisdom, literally, that's rising up from our enteric system, hitting the heart, hitting the brain, so that we can translate it. But if we don't have the circuits in place, because we're so used to operating from our educated intellect, it's hard to trust this other version of information or of truth that's rising in us. And so I'm trying to teach people how, and we've been having amazing results for the last 15 years, specifically since I've been teaching these in the form of the energy codes. It's a codified system of learning how to translate this universal intelligence that we're all swimming in, this unified field, or the 0 point field of consciousness that we've been learning about and hearing about for several years now in our culture. So it's very, very exciting.
It's very exciting. One of the biggest problems I see, or when working with people, and even for myself, was I see people coming up against all the time. They don't know what to do. They feel stuck. They feel trapped, and we're leaning into this body of work and learning to trust that, it was such a huge relief for me in terms, and I'm sure it must have happened for you if you were being a doctor and then stepping into teaching this work. Like, it would be a very different identity to what you would have been accustomed to, if I'm not mistaken.
Definitely. I had to let go of everything. Really, I mean, one step at a time, but eventually, I had to let go. What are my colleagues going to think if I start talking about all this wacky stuff? Are you kidding? And fortunately, I was in natural healthcare, so it wasn't about medications and surgery and that kind of
Okay.
thing. It was about, how do we connect with nature enough? How do we allow our body to function the way it was naturally designed to be functioned, to be self-healing? And I was raised in an environment where that was the case. In fact, I've never gone to the doctor and gotten a prescription to take an antibiotic in order to heal something, because I was fortunate enough to be born into a family where my parents were interested in natural health care. My father was a chiropractor and was working with the body's natural ability to heal and turning on innate intelligence, which is the healer within. And he developed a healing modality that he traveled the world teaching to other chiropractors and natural healthcare practitioners. So it was in my blood and it was in my cultural environment to embrace this. But still, what I was accessing and experiencing was far beyond the discipline of chiropractic and its regular expression in the world. And so I had to, navigate this thing where I knew people were going to have some crazy stuff to say about it, but it didn't matter. It just didn't matter to me. And at the end of the day, what I knew, the experience that I had and the experiences that I was continuing to have as I was learning, in this rudimentary way to build my own circuitry. And it just outweighed what people thought. I cared deeply. So I can't say I didn't care. It just didn't matter enough to keep it withheld. It wasn't an option. I figured this happened in my life for some reason. I have to explore it. And it's making such a difference in my own life. I healed a scoliosis in my own body, a curvature of my spine that was very significant.
Wow.
I healed these migraine headaches that were debilitating to the point that I was missing work 1 or 2 days a week for months on end right before I started meditating, because something had to change. And so I was, driven to meditation, and they were healed as soon as I started integrating this experience, and developing these practices. The migraines went away. My life just completely changed. My shyness went away. My perfectionism, started dissipating, because there was this trust in the universe that I never even knew was there to be had. Suddenly was just taking over my life. And I know that I've worked with tens of thousands of people since then. And every single time that one of them actually, gets that, oh my God, this is true. This can be true for me too. And they start dropping into this with the practices that I'm teaching. They relieve, their symptoms go away, their lives start to change, they become self-empowered, they become, more intimate in their relationships without withholding, and just, you name it. It's across the board that things begin to transform when we step into the true self.
Yeah, amazing. And who wouldn't want a piece of that? That's for sure. So yeah, let's talk about your book. You got the energy codes. When was it released? It was this year, right? 2000.
March this year. It was just a few months ago, and it's been an amazing experience. It was Simon and Schuster. The release was March of 2019, and when I started writing, that was like 3 years from the time I started writing until the time it was published, and it seemed like forever. And time passes pretty quickly when you're putting all that kind of information together, and it came together beautifully. And
oh, look, it's beautiful. And how would you best describe the book then to somebody? Like, what are the energy codes, and if they bought the book tomorrow, what would they expect from it?
Sure. So it's in 3 sections, and the whole book overall is truly to teach people how to stop living from our protective personality or our performing personality, which is basically the ego. But I notice that people don't like to have an ego, so I call it the protective personality, and nobody minds having that. So we can get a lot of really great work done because we have a prejudice about the ego. But then I like to tell people, by the way, only the ego doesn't like to have an ego. So if there's a reaction to it, maybe there's something there for you. So, but basically what it is we land here in this this life, and we kind of splat. And in the splat, our mind goes one way, our body goes another, our breath goes another way. And out there on the perimeter of the splat, we develop this way of coping, of compensating. We bargain, we negotiate, we develop this identity of who we think is going to be acceptable and how we should operate in the world, and so on. And it's not who we really are. It's just how we learn to get around, how we learn to get by, how we learn to cope and to navigate and to be successful and to make things work. But it takes a lot of energy to keep performing that way. And it doesn't ever let us really truly accomplish our true destiny. And so the book is about how to pull yourself back from the splat and to start to integrate what you learned as skill sets out there, how to integrate them in to serve the essential self, to your true self. And so we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We take everything that we learned how to do and how to navigate, and we then apply it to a greater cause. And that greater cause is to serve the soul. It's to serve the essential self, the true self, who you were when you chose to come here, and to get that one back together, get the pieces put back together so that that one can have the life that it came here to have. And so a byproduct of that is your beliefs change and they soften, and you rise up as a different version of who you are from the inside out, rather than continuing to be identified as the mind. Because in the splat, that's what we did. We hooked onto the mind because it looked like the one that was most likely able to protect us and to figure out how to navigate this life. But because we're attached to the mind, we have this limited life experience because the mind is based in duality. And so therefore, the mind is based in judgment. So things are either right or they're wrong, either good or they're bad, or I'm good enough or I'm not, or I can make it or I won't. And so because of all that dualism, we get really exhausted. And life becomes really unfun. It's really good on a good day, but it's really rough on a bad day. And so what we're doing is establishing a different identity, and one that isn't so controlled by the mind, one that actually gets the mind off of us and has it serving us instead, the way that it's supposed to be. Instead of, it's like we ask the mind to run the show, and the mind isn't equipped to do that. And so it's freaked out all the time. And really, the mind wants to be serving a greater cause. That's why we're so attracted to causes. We want to make a difference in the world. We want to contribute to something. And the reason for that is that the mind doesn't want to be alone running the show, even though it egoically tries to do the best that it can every day. And it will defend itself to the nth degree until we realize, hey, dude, there's a better way. Just chill out. Stop it. Knock it off. And it will do that. It will chill out if we give it an easy way to do that. So the energy codes are teaching people an easy way to get unattached from the ego, get the egoic mind serving the soul instead, and turn it around in what I call the quantum flip. So in the first section of the book, I talk about quantum science. I talk about how it all works together, but I do it in a super user-friendly way so that people can relate to it and make it applicable. And I talk about my experience of awakening and how I integrated that along the way, just to share the story with people so that people can start to realize actually they've been having something similar like that in their lives all along. It shows up in a variety of different ways. Some of them are dramatic like mine was. Some of them are little nuances, little nudges. And when I start writing about it, people started saying, oh, I get that. That's kind of like what's going on with me. And I'm like, exactly. That's what we have to realize, is how to connect the dots so that we have the power to pursue this on our own. So then the middle section of the book is all about how-to. It's the how-to exercises of how I got integrated and how I've shared that with thousands of other people who are having the same, many different experiences similar to awakening to their own true essential self. And then the third section of the book, I'm just kind of giving you daily practices and ways to put it all together so that you know that you're making a difference, and that as time passes, you will have created a different life experience for yourself. And then just giving some images in the last chapter about what it would look like if everybody was doing that, and how we can live on from this quantum flip on what I call the front side of the model, where we're operating as a creator instead of just becoming a better reactor, a better responder in life. So
totally wonderful. Yeah, no, I can second that. Like I said, I've gone through your book twice on Audible, listening to it in the car and driving around. And I'm a busy person. I have people sending me stuff all the time, but honestly, your book was phenomenal. The way you break it down, the way you instruct it and simplify it, it just made so much sense from start to finish. So I certainly encourage everyone to check it out for sure.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Yes, I've gotten
And
great feedback from it. You know, you never know when you put something out there. It makes sense to you, right? But you don't know how it's going to go. But we've had a tremendous response to it. It's hit #1 on bestseller lists and all kinds of things. And so that's what matters to me most is that we can touch the people with it and come together as a community and support each other in the most important part of our life on earth is really to wake up to the true self, to our own true magnificent self. And that's really what our life purpose is, whether we think it's what vocation we have or
yeah.
what job we're in. That kind of thing is not the deal. It doesn't really matter as long as the whole of our life is serving us awakening to the true self.
What would you say? Last question before we move on. What would you say to someone listening to this that is just on the fence? They're curious, but because I've noticed even in my own journey, there's a lot of fear can be wrapped around it and things, and you're like, oh, I'm so comfortable. I'm attached to the old self, and I don't know if I'm going to like this new version 2.0 that wants to come through, and we kind of make up stories, and we can get quite fearful of it.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to somebody listening to this?
So, for me, it happened like bang, it was all at once. For most people, it's an incremental thing. The book is designed, for instance, to walk people through it step by step. So the beautiful byproduct of that is nothing's going to happen before you're ready. What happened for me was I was pushing the river, and so was my teacher. I could tell now, in retrospect, I can tell that my teacher knew that was going to happen and was really, hoping for that to happen under their watch. And it did, but I don't recommend it happening that way. And so I had to work to get in my body. If I'd been in my body, it wouldn't have been a challenge for me the way I described having to be in bed and having all these sensitivities become super sensitive, and that kind of thing is totally unnecessary. So we have people now today that are empaths that are very sensitive already, and the thought of becoming more sensitive is like, forget about it. I don't want to do that. And then we have the other end of the spectrum, the person, like you say, like, I kind of like my life. I'm not really sure I want it to like do this radical change. And the good news is it doesn't have to. In fact, the energy codes is all about integration. So it's about one step at a time so that you're infusing every transformation, every change in with the rest of who you are. So it's an evolution. It's a transformation. It's not this radical, throw the baby out with the bathwater, things have changed too much and I don't like it kind of thing. It's not at all. What happens is you evolve at your own pace. Like what you're interested in looking at and integrating is what happens. And it happens from the inside out. It doesn't happen from the outside in. So nothing can happen that you're not ready for. And so you can go partway into it and it's like, that's good enough. I think I'll hang here at this level for a while. And then 6 months later, you decide, you know what, I think I'm ready for some more. So you just start doing more of the practices and it up levels you. And it's like that. Like you get to still be in charge. You still get to have free will choices. It's not that when the ego, steps aside that we're just completely untethered. It's not that at all. In fact, we're more grounded than the ego lets us be. The mind works like this rapid moving ceiling fan that's spinning so fast, you would never stick your finger through it because it would hurt, right? So we have to learn how to slow down the mind so that the true self, which operates on a totally different frequency, can slip through there and we can have a bigger experience of who we are. But that's all paced by us. It's never going to happen faster than we're ready. It can't happen faster than we're ready because the moment we start fearing, it slows down the process. So another concern for people is, how do I get it to happen faster? The opposite of that. Not like I'm digging my heels in, I don't want all this change. There's that. But there's also the person who's saying like, enough already. I've been doing practices all my life. I'm ready for this like big kabang. And I'm also speaking to that person, showing them how to allow that to happen. But it will always happen with grace and integration with this work, because the work is about integration. It's really about the balance between loving and thinking. If I'm willing to love more and think less, I'm going to have a faster transformation. If I feel like it's going too fast, all I have to do is start thinking and it slows it down. So we tether. We're supposed to tether. It's like the gas pedal and the clutch. Which one do we push? How do we know when to shift? Take our foot off the gas and push in the clutch and then shift. And then how do we know when to let off the clutch and hit the gas just right so that we end up, peeling out here. It's all up to us. And all we have to do is learn the skills to use this equipment the way that it was built to be used. But nobody's been teaching us that. That was stuff that was deep in the ashrams and really not held as a secret, but held as sacred, so that only the sincere and the ready, the adept, had access to the information. And we are evolving in such a fashion that we're ready in a greater sense of the masses to have this access to this information. And I know that we're ready because it happened in me. And while I was studying with the teacher, I was brand new. I stayed deeply in that for 4 years, living in, the equivalent of ashram type living periodically throughout it, so that I had access to the information. But this awakening was happening nearly automatically. So if it could happen in me, I knew we must be ready for this. How do I know? Because here it is. It's coming out of me. And so the teaching is this divine orchestration of a conversation, but I'm interested in making it user friendly and in a very integrated way in our modern day. So here we are, and we have access, and it's our time. It's our time, or we wouldn't be interested. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now, and our viewers wouldn't be viewing if we weren't interested. We're interested because it's our time. It's time for this conversation to manifest.
100%. Everything you just said was amazing. Like I was curious and I had no idea, Sue, about anything of this work. And then I went to a meditation retreat in Mexico and had my brains blown open in the second day, and very similar experiences to you. And there was just like, well, I'm just a guy from Wales that used to play rugby. Like, if that's happening to me, then there's got to be a few more out there.
Right. And thank goodness that we didn't know that it existed. I can speak for myself. If I knew this was a goal, I would have never accomplished it, because I would have been so busy trying to do it right. And I would have been so caught up in the trying that the allowing wouldn't have had its way with me. So I was just this innocent, like, God, somebody just show me how to stop having headaches and to stop stressing out. So I sat down and boom, this whole other world opened up. And I was in a room full of people who'd been trying to meditate for 30 years to have an enlightenment experience. So I started sharing, this happened, and I thought I was just catching up to the people who were in the room, and they were like, what? Are you kidding? I've been trying to do that for 25 years. What are you talking about? You walk in here, you waltz in here and have that happen. And so, they were like fussy with me. And I was like, hey, I have no idea what's going on. And so I could learn what had happened from them, because they'd been studying to have it happen. But I know that when we get in our heads about it, things don't happen like they should, because the mind is a constrictor. It's a focuser. That's its job. And the heart is the expander. So we want to expand. We have to drop into love. And science, fortunately, quantum science is showing us, turns out it's smart to love. It's smart to love. That's what quantum science is teaching us. And I could go into that. It's a whole different conversation, and I'd love to. I'll come back and we can talk about that. But it becomes this ability to manage, how much do I allow and how much do I put my foot on the gas and think. So the thinker is the gas pedal, and the heart is the fuel, is the igniter, is the expander, it's the exploder of our consciousness. So something happened with you, and I wasn't in a state of love when that happened. I was just stilling my mind, and the love shot out bigger. So the consciousness is love. Consciousness is love. It's the same thing. So pure consciousness, the unthinking mind, the observing mind is dialing closer into this frequency. So the same thing happened with you, Guy. In some fashion, you weren't trying to become enlightened. You were at a meditation retreat for whatever reason, and it opens up. And for me, at least, I can speak that if I had known that was the goal, I probably wouldn't have hit it, because I'm like this overachiever, like if it can be done, it can be done now kind of person. And so I snuck up on myself, by divine design. And this this is what I want for people, to be able to approach it in a manner that they know if they do this, then they'll do this, then they'll do this, and then it will unfold, versus just trying to, go for the whole thing all at once and bowling our way in like a bull in a china shop, keeping it from ever being able to happen. There was just enough reverie inside of me and appreciation for life and for possibility that the innocence won over my thinking mind. And so if playing rugby was your deal and yet you found yourself in a meditation, that's like I hear that all the time. Lots and lots of students are that. They're like, I was minding my own business and bang, here I am. Now what do I do with it? And I'm showing them how to integrate. And other students that have never had the experience, they're having the experiences because of the same integrative processes. It's because it's putting the pieces back together.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly grateful for them. That's for sure. Like, I can't imagine life without having them now. Like, so it's incredible. Now, I ask everyone some questions on the show each week. And the first one is, what's been a low point in your life that's later become a blessing?
Oh, wow. I've had some, I wrote about a couple of them in the book, actually. Those are the ones that came to mind. One was not being accepted by my father in certain ways that really buckled me over. Certain judgments that he had about me, or as much as he loved me and was caring, he just had his own ideas, and he had his favorite scenarios in life, and I wasn't fitting into that. So like the one that I offered up in the book, where he didn't include me in his will at the end to any degree that he included my siblings. And so it was a real, like, buckled me over, took me out, just and it was even after I'd had this experience. But when it comes down to your biological family, there's a reason on a soulful level that you guys are here. And I talk about this in the book about, you have these soul agreements, these soul contracts to help each other really, like, get it, like, awaken. And so he was holding my feet to the fire in a way that he didn't even know about. And later I realized that I didn't get that support because I didn't need that support. But in the moment, I thought I needed the support, and meaning the emotional support, the love. It felt like a withdrawal of love. And it wasn't about the money and the goods and that kind of thing. Although, I was very emotionally attached to several of my mother's belongings, which now I wasn't going to have access to. So it just really was hard. And in that, I recognized from it that I didn't get that support. I'll say it again, because I didn't need it. And when I realized I didn't need it, I accepted a greater version of myself than I had ever been in contact with before. And I was able to step into my power in a way that I probably, I guess, never would have, or certainly this happening, as all happenings are, was in my favor to find my own true power. And so it turned out to be one of the greatest blessings of my life.
Wow.
Even though it was devastating at the time. And this is the way it is on planet Earth. Sure. The things that are devastating are truly trying to teach us to reach inside of ourselves and find the part of us that any other set of circumstances wouldn't have nudged us toward.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. What does your morning routine look like?
So I love to drop into meditation. I do so before my feet hit the floor in the morning. When I first am aware that I'm awake, I start a central channel breath, which is something I teach in the book. And I do this little body scan to determine where the circuits are and where they are not. And wherever they are not, what happens is, if my intention is to get all the way down through the central channel, just inch by inch by inch, all the way down through the body, and I get to about here and I'm off thinking about my to-do list or whatever, then I know that I don't have the circuits in place right here to match the version of me that I have evolved to at this point in time. And so the energy disperses, and the next thing I know, I'm off of my task, I'm off of my intention, and I'm being pulled out by the world into some other idea of what's important. And so then I do the circuit building practices that are in the book to build the circuits wherever it was. If I happen to be down by the heart by the time it splats, but the dispersal happens, then I build the circuits there. If I'm all the way down to the solar plexus or down in my deep core wisdom, and then I'm off on my to-do list or wondering what time it is, then I know that that's where I need to build the circuits today. And then I set my intentions regarding where that evolution needed to be happening, where the circuits needed to be built today. So if it's here, I set my intention on speaking my truth and hearing my truth and coming into my body and manifesting here more fully. If it's in my heart, my intention is, okay, today, no matter what happens, I'm going to be loving instead of being thinking, because if I start thinking, chances are I'm going to miss an opportunity to build more circuitry here, where obviously it's appropriate. And the system is constantly telling us what we need to do next for our evolution. That's what I love about this work that I'm sharing with people, is that the whole system shows the mind exactly what you need to do next in order to work effectively with all this. So I love yoga. I do breath work. I try to get on the yoga mat every day. And this year has been super busy because of the book launch and all the book tour and all those things. So it's been extra that I've had to do internal work when it didn't allow me to get on the mat. I do the circuit building work that the book is all about. So then I'm drinking lemon water, room temperature lemon water, to get the cleanse happening immediately. I drink celery juice in the morning to detox and get a happy start on liver, kidney, colon type of things. And then I begin my day. So I can take it all day, but that's the day's beginning.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm always curious. I've had over 100 people on the show now, and the amount of different morning routines that come out is extraordinary. Yes. Yeah, beautiful. Last question, if you could have dinner with anyone tonight from any time frame, anywhere in the world, who do you think it would be and why?
Wow. There was a sage named Sri Aurobindo, who I more recently learned was actually teaching some embodiment practices. He was an illuminated individual who was teaching principles from the East for many, many years, and had many wonderful, miraculous things happen in his life. And as with many of the true teachers from the deep philosophies of consciousness from the beginning of recorded history, there are many I would select, but I'm in this moment. That was who popped into my mind. I visited his ashram in India, in southern India, once. I've many travels to India, and as I was standing near his where his burial site is, I had another transformational experience. A multidimensional experience was happening right there, and I was taking a group of students there just to, all along the southern tip of India, stopping at many different destinations, and this was part of the tour. And it wasn't necessarily a specifically special part of the tour. It was just another temple and such that we were visiting. And so I'm having this experience, and the students are coming and going into this room, and I'm realizing I'm having an experience here, and I'm supposed to be the leader of this group, taking care of all these other people. So I was kind of in two places at once, just trying to tend to them and also allow this wave of this fiery essence that was just felt like it was just coming right up through the ground, through my lower half of my body, and this amazing transformational experience was happening for me. Just this phenomenon was going on. And I later then just looked him up a little bit to see what was going on, and only to find out that long ago he was teaching these concepts of coming into the body with this high frequency energy. So I'd love to pick his brain and talk a little bit about the embodiment practices and circuit building, and share with him what quantum science is saying, and see what he had to say about that, just to navigate this pathway for humanity a little, with whatever else could be added to the conversation that he might be able to contribute. I'd love that.
Yeah, that would be one hell of a conversation, I reckon. Yeah, and last thing, with everything we've covered today, is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
Well, you know, I would say that one thing that I would love for humanity to catch right off the bat is that there's nothing broken, there's nothing missing, there's nothing wrong, that you're holding complete exactly as you are. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can get on to the front side of this model of consciousness that I reference after the quantum flip in the book. I reference it as operating as a creator. The sooner you can get on with tapping your own higher consciousness, with integrating it into your own life and allowing it to shine out through the work that you're already doing in the world, your regular common workplace thing, this thing that feels like a job that can't possibly be expressing your spirituality or enhancing your own personal development. I beg to differ. It's exactly how you're supposed to be expressing out into the world for now, because that's what you're doing. And allow that to be your practice. Allow it to be your integrative practice, where you're figuring out how to bring your higher self into even seemingly mundane activities. Because when you figure out how to do that, you're integrating, you're infusing yourself into your body and into your life, and other miraculous types of things will start to happen when you least expect it. If you just carry wood and chop wood and carry water, as the saying goes, in our modern day examples, never taking your eye off of living as the essential true self and having confidence in that. So let you be you. You're here to do that fully. And when you do, miracles happen. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And where can I send everyone to? They want to get the book. They want to check out your work. What's the best place I can send them to?
They can reach us at drsuemorter.com, just DRSUEMORTER.com, and you can get the book through our website, and you also get extra meditations and things like that I have as support materials for people that want to come to the website and check out. We have all kinds of coursework, and I take journeys to sacred sites around the world. I also teach the basic coursework across the United States, and I've met many people from Australia and around the world on my sacred site journeys that I take people to Egypt and India and Machu Picchu and all kinds of amazing places where we can do the work when we're being influenced by the energies of these sacred sites.
Awesome. Well, I'll if people pause this podcast, if they're listening on iTunes, the link will be straight below it anyway, so they can do that and check it out while they remember. And Sue, look, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and thank you for all that you do and the work you put out. It's certainly helped me in my own transition personally as well. And yeah, it's deeply appreciated. Thank you.
My great pleasure. My pleasure. And thank you for what you're doing, because interviewing this many people and sharing it with as many people as you are is an important link that we need to be supporting in the world. So it's very important what you're doing, Guy, and thank you for inviting me to be here. I've thoroughly enjoyed it and look forward to connecting with you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.